Amy Kellogg, our foreign affairs correspondent. Ukrainian President Volodymyr. Sorry, I'm thinking Voldemort. That's terrible, but I'm a Harry Potter fan. Yeah. Zelensky addressed the United Nations on Wednesday, warning of what he called a new arms race and also urging world leaders to stay united against Russian aggression. Amy Kellogg joins us now from Milan. Good to see you this morning. What did Zelensky mean when he said a new arms race?
Good morning, Kieran and Dave. Well, first of all, he began his speech with a really serious call out of international organizations like the UN for their failure to uphold the international rules-based order and to stop wars, including his war, the war in Gaza, the war in Sudan. And then he shifted, and in that I might say that he really was not dissimilar to Trump's message earlier in the week about how these organizations are not really pulling their weight to the extent they could be. But this arms race was really quite chilling. We think about arms races in the context of nuclear weapons, but what he said is that because of the nature of this war and the situation Ukraine is in, there has been a need to develop these relatively inexpensive and very deadly drones. And now we've got tens of thousands of new people who are able to operate them. They've been a lifesaver in many ways for Ukraine, but he worries that they will proliferate to such an extent and they're becoming deadlier with greater capabilities every day that at some point it will only be people who control AI systems who will be able to stop them. And though Ukraine has benefited in some ways from having drones, he blames Vladimir Putin for starting this arms race and said this is just another reason for the war to stop now.
Well, it's interesting. Let's go back to the day prior, Amy, when Trump made his long, rambling escalator teleprompter speech. He also reversed ground on supporting Zelensky and Ukraine, but he also made clear time and time again that actions matter, words do not matter. So what actions has the President of the United States taken recently to defend Vladimir Zelensky, to increase arms shipments, or to punish Vladimir Putin?
Nothing, Dave, as far as we know. And again, a lot of people are starting to worry that when Trump, in this very lengthy Truth Social post that he put out, expressing great support for Ukraine and the possibility that Ukraine could actually win this, that later in the tweet he says, "And I wish them all good luck." So a lot of people are worrying now that he's just trying to wash his hands of this conflict. And Zelensky has said a couple of times now that he considers their drones to be in lieu of sanctions, where no really toothy sanctions seem to be getting put into place by the United States. The drones that Ukraine has produced are taking out a lot of Russia's oil infrastructure. Apparently, a fifth of its refineries have been taken offline by these drones. So I think Ukraine does realize that it does need to go it alone with support of the European allies. And one last thing that's out there in the mix is $300 billion of Russian money was frozen in Europe. And there are people like Bill Browder and other activists who are trying to get that money turned over to Ukraine so that they can use it in whatever way they see fit. And most likely that will be for buying more weapons from the Europeans. There's been pushback because it's Russia's money, but Russia started this war, and increasingly Europeans and certain activists are saying we need to just take that money and give it to Ukraine to buy weapons.
And what about the appetite on either side between Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky? I cannot say that this morning. I'm sorry. To actually
it's early.
Get an end to this.
Yeah, the two Vlads. Zelensky wants this war to end, but does not want to end it on terms that are seen as, that he believes are not fair. And it's a really difficult conundrum because maybe Ukraine could take back some land, but they'll be losing a lot of men in the meantime. And, it's 1 million casualties for Russia at this point, hundreds of thousands for Ukraine. That's between people killed and injured and soldiers. And so they plan to push on as far as we can tell, but there's no sense that there's a real movement for peace in the near future. And I think that is among the most troubling things. And Zelensky yesterday said, the person who has the weapons is the person who wins. Treaties that protect security guarantees traditionally don't seem to work that well. You need good friends, you need good weapons. And I think as much as he wants this arms race to end, he knows that he needs to be armed to the teeth until Vladimir Putin shows some fatigue.
Yeah, quote the president, actions matter, words do not. Amy, thanks so much. Appreciate your insights there.